In this lesson, we're going to learn about different types of window classes. Now, we have already saw that how you can build your first simple GUI application using PyQt. Also, we have already mentioned that there are three different window type classes that we can use in PyQt. Now, the first one is QMainWindow. The QMainWindow class provides a main application window. A main window provides a framework for building an application's user interface. PyQt has QMainWindow and its related classes for main window management. QMainWindow has its own layout to which you can add QToolbars, QDockable widgets, QMenubar, and also QStatusbar. Another type of window class that we have, that's called QDialog. Now, the QDialog class is the base class of dialog window. And a dialog window is a top-level window mostly used for short-term tasks and brief communications with the user. QDialogs may be modal and also modelless. And the third type is QWidget. We have already saw the example of QWidget. Now, the QWidget class is the base class of all user interface objects. The widget is the important point of the user interface. It receives mouse, keyboard, and other events from the Windows system and paints a representation of itself on the screen. Now, let's create examples. Now, we have already saw the example of QWidget, so you can see that from Qt Widgets module, we have imported QWidget, and if I run this, you'll see that I have a simple window with minimize, maximize, and closing buttons. Now, let's create our QMainWindow, and in here I'm going to create another Python file. I'm going to just call it, for example, window2.py. And what we want to copy all the code from here, and we can paste it in this section. Now I'm going to change this to QMainWindow. And in here, instead of QWidget, we need to create the object of our QMainWindow. So now if I run this, you'll see that I have the same window. Now it's a little bit smaller because it's a QMainWindow. We have the minimize, maximize buttons, and also we can close this. Now, as I have already said, that when you're using QMainWindow, you can access to, for example, you can access to the QStatusbar, QToolbar, or QDockable widgets, and also QMenubars. Now, let's create a status bar in here. Now, in the section, in here, I'm going to just say window dot statusbar dot show message, and in here I can just say welcome to PyQt6 course. So now if I run this, you can see that now I have the status bar in here, and you can see in the QMainWindow. Now if I add this in my QWidget window, now let me just copy this, and if I paste this in here, and if I run this, you can see that we are receiving error. It's telling that QWidget object has no attribute status bar because we cannot use a status bar in a QWidget application. So also, for example, you can create a menu bar. For example, we can just say window.menubar.add menu. For example, I want to add a file menu. And now if I run this, so you can see that I have a file menu in here, and if I add this in my widget window, and okay, now you can see that I am receiving error that QWidget object has no attribute status bar, or for example, or menu bar. Now, let's create another type of window, that's QDialog, and as I've already said, that it is like a dialog window, and we can just say window 3, and we can just copy the exact code from here, paste it in this section, and So let me just first change this to Queue Dialog, and this should be created the object of Queue Dialog. Now if I run this, so you can see that we are receiving error that Queue Dialog object has no attribute status bar. And now if I remove these two, let me just remove this. And now if I run this, so now you can see that I'm seeing my window, a Queue Dialog window, but you can see that I'm not seeing the maximize and also minimize button. I have just close button, and I could just close this.